So this is my collection of some of my collection of U.S. presidents memorabilia, um, and I have a lot of different stuff. So let me just show you some things. This is a little collection of presidential tokens that was made years and years ago, and I have one for Madison and I have one for Roosevelt. I'm not exactly sure where I got these. I believe the Roosevelt one I picked up at Warm Springs, and the Madison one may have been a gift to me. But these are very old. They're nice little collector coins. They're not worth anything. And on the back of each coin, oh, these have been here so long. They're sticking to it. There's a little biography of the president. This is a coin my parents bought for me a long time ago. It's a gold coin, and it's still shiny, even though it's 30 years old. It's a gold coin honoring Ronald Reagan and 40th president after his. Actually, this was from 1989. It was sold after his 2 terms ended, and it still shines like it's brand new, which is very cool. This is one of my favorite pieces. This is the presidential limousine, scale replica down to every detail, even the antennas on the back. It's just a beautiful car. The flags, the doors open, and you can see the interior. Let me see if I can open one here. The interior is so detailed, you can even see the seal of the president inside the door. It's just very, very cool. The telephones are in there. I really, really like this. One of my favorite pieces, this car. Next, I want to show you some books. This is the 2 books that I have, both put out by Pocket Books, both very old. I believe they were both released the same year that, or close to the same time that President Kennedy was assassinated. This is a reprint of Profiles in Courage, the book written by President Kennedy. Try to be kind of delicate with it. It's very old, 50-something years old. Yeah, this was put out right after his assassination. And it's a good read. I have another copy for reading. This is a book about some lawmakers who, in President Kennedy's opinion, expressed admirable courage in difficult circumstances. And there's a section of pictures in the middle. Very cool book. This one is about President Lincoln, and Kennedy and Lincoln were compared with each other quite a little bit. They were both elected 100 years apart. They were both assassinated. There's a lot of coincidences between President Lincoln and President Kennedy. This is Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a memorial. This book was put out in 1945. It even still says, "Send this book to a soldier overseas." This was put out also by Pocket Books. right after Franklin Roosevelt passed away while in office. And it's a keepsake book. It's almost printed on Bible paper. And it contains some speeches, some facts, pictures, all kinds of content relating to President Roosevelt, who was president for so long that so many Americans, upon his passing, just felt completely devastated because he'd been president for so long. They just couldn't imagine what it would be like without having FDR at the helm, delivering his soothing fireside chats on the radio, navigating the country through World War II and all of the things, ending the Great Depression and all the things that Roosevelt was given credit for. So, obviously, a book like this was part of a way to help find some closure for the death of a very, very beloved president. It's hard for us to imagine today what that would be like. But this is an interesting snapshot of the past. This is called A Day in the Life of President Kennedy by Jim Bishop. The same author would go on to write The Day President Kennedy Died. This book was actually released posthumously. It was created just a few weeks before Kennedy's death. Inside, I have a bookmark that celebrates President Kennedy with a stamp and a little medal on it. This book is about spending a week in the White House and consolidating all that material into one day so they could make a representative day of what President Kennedy's day-to-day life was. Its chapter is a time, is an hour. 7 until he goes to bed. And it discusses all the different things he does, whether it's presidential business or time with his family, reading the newspaper, eating breakfast, eating lunch. All of the things are covered in this book. It's well written and easy to read. If you read the foreword, well, first he dedicates it to the children, but if you read the foreword, he talks about how this book actually came out after the assassination, so it was a bittersweet. It was a, definitely difficult thing to put out. This was supposed to be a book to celebrate President Kennedy, to help him engage with the public better, not as a memorial to him. This is a set of postage stamps that my brother bought me years and years and years ago when he was up north. And it's stamps of George Washington, all of the many postage stamps that feature President Washington on them. I actually don't want to open this because this has been sealed for over 30 years. But these stamps in particular are very old, and these are real. But this set of stamps is all of George Washington's postage history, and it's got a stamp from Yorktown, Virginia, where he bought it. So that's one of my other prized possessions. This book is called Hail to the Candidate, Presidential Campaigns from Banners to Broadcasts. And it's sort of a history of presidential campaigns and full of pictures. If you're interested in this sort of thing, it's got a lot of great pictures. And it shows the other things that they would do, like giving out cigars with their picture on it, or like this pocket watch. A lot of good history in here. There's a board game, playing cards, a pipe, I guess that's a beer pitcher, sheet music, these are little dolls. And some of it's also showing the the stuff that was put out to discredit the opposing candidate as well. I guess you could say this is just an election propaganda book. I mean, my goodness. Interesting stuff if you're into politics or if you're into elections. That's a good painting of Grant and his generals. Obviously, it came in handy when General Grant was wearing. There's buttons. The teddy bear. The bull moose party. A lot of history in this book. I like Ike. The Rainbow Coalition. That's Jimmy Carter, the peanut. So, next I want to show you some postcards that are significant. This is a postcard of Love Field in Dallas, where President Kennedy landed on his last day. This is a poster of President Kennedy and Johnson, President Kennedy and his family. Another postcard of President Kennedy and him and his wife. His campaign poster. This is one I picked up at a print shop in Memphis, and Nashville, and it's a print of President Lincoln, which I just really liked. And the last thing I want to show you is this newspaper set. So, this set of newspapers was put up by the New York Times, and it was put out when President Obama was first elected. And the purpose is 220 years of fascinating coverage, George Washington to Barack Obama, plus historical pages from other newspapers. It included the issue of the New York Times when President Obama was elected. Their complete newspaper in totally pristine condition. And the other part of it is this beautiful set of newspapers that I'm going to show you now. Of course, this is the one we just looked at. This is more of him getting the nomination. This is President Bush's election. And this is his first election. And as you can see, it's the New York Times front page for each presidential election. So, if you want a little piece of history, every single president and there's of course the Kennedy assassination. And Truman. Now we're down to some older New York Times here. This is the death of President Roosevelt. One of his many inaugurations. Roosevelt was president a lot. 1933, when he was first elected. This, if you're a guy like me who loves history, this is a great thing to own. And we're going farther and farther back in time. Right now we're 1913. See how the New York Times hasn't changed? 1909, 1905. Pretty soon, we keep going farther back, New York Times isn't going to exist anymore. As you can see, as we go farther back, it's just text, no pictures. From 1881. 1877, 1873, 1869, 1865. This is the Lincoln assassination edition where they left the black bars in it. Very distinctive cover. (1861) New York Times, President Lincoln, elected president. 1857. It's now the New York Daily Times. It's no longer the New York Times. New York Daily Tribune. Brother Jonathan, inauguration of President Taylor. We're going way back now. Zachary Taylor. Brother Jonathan. Boston Times, 1841. New York Evening Post. Wow, Southern Register. We're getting farther and farther back in time. The Salem Gazette, 1801. And finally, we're back in the 1700s. Wow. That was a good video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like stuff like this, because to me, this stuff is just interesting. So, I'll see you as usual tomorrow night. Thanks for dropping by.